were going to talk about Donald Trump straight away to begin with anyway. The Prime Minister has had a phone call with Donald Trump. They discussed trade, of course, but other things including Ukraine, the action against the Houthis as well. So we're going to be discussing what this future visit might actually look like. Should we be rolling out the red carpet for Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump suggested, hasn't he, that Buckingham Palace has set a date for September for his second state visit to the UK.
Well, I was invited by the King and by the country, great country, they're going to do a second, as you know, a second fest. And that's what it is, it's a fest, and it's beautiful. And I think they're setting a date for September.
So there we go. Donald Trump, rather excited about his visit. It will make him the first US president ever to attend two separate state visits to this country. But it does come, of course, as tensions around trade negotiations remain high. The UK is still facing that 10% tariff levy. But remember last time around, don't forget the protests we had back in 2018 when Trump came to visit the United Kingdom. Could we see scenes like this again? We had the baby blimp, the infamous baby blimp, which Sadiq Khan, I believe, sanctioned in London. It was everywhere over Parliament Square in central London. You had tens of thousands of people marching on the streets against the Trump visit. Seems like a different world, doesn't it? 7 years on now in 2025. But the question for now is, should we be rolling out the red carpet for Donald Trump? Well, I will start with, who shall I start with? Stephen Wolfe. What do you reckon, Stephen, about this? So do you remember in 2018, of course you do, you've got a long memory,
yes.
But when there was so much drama and anticipation about this state visit, huge amounts of anger, lots of protests, women's groups and other groups, all hurtling down to Parliament to make their voices known. Do you think we'll see that again? And should we be rolling out the red carpet?
Well, I think we probably will see it again. It's entertainment, it's fun. I don't think the US government is going to really look upon that with any interest whatsoever. They might actually give them a lot of opportunities to use that kind of negativity for their own campaigning back in the United States and to show, look, this is what we're facing across the globe. This is why we've said that Europe is not free. But actually, I think it's a really important part of our freedom to allow those people who oppose him, who don't necessarily agree with me, to be able to let out their anger and anguish. That's democracies. But should we be rolling out the red carpet? Of course. This is a nation that we have 1 trillion in terms of kind of trade between our nations. We have inward investment of around 40 billion. We are one of the biggest trade deficits with the United States. So it's really important for trade in our country. And if we want to keep good end jobs, and most of them are, these aren't like the low-end burger chains, although there are there, but most of them are top-end in the city, in engineering, in high-tech. And if you want growth, and we need growth to be able to compete, then we have to be able to talk to a nation that effectively creates the rules for those countries to come here. I think it's very important. Ignore that as you will, then you've also got security. And we could go on in security, trade, also our common values.
Well, yes, we've had a note from the government that a phone call has taken place between Sir Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. Apparently, of course, they discussed the ongoing and productive discussions between the UK and the US on trade. Now, that may be sugarcoating. We don't know exactly where we are with these trades. We've heard headlines about how we're 3 weeks away, 2 weeks away. Things are going in the right direction, but then we're hearing that actually the United States are going to keep this 10% tariff at the very least. But they also spoke about Ukraine, Iran, the Yemen action taken against the Houthis and everything else. Do you think we're going to see that sort of level of protest this time around, or do you think people have got used to Donald Trump now?
No, I think because there's two things. Donald Trump is doing everything he said he was going to do. So no one can come out and say that, oh, I'm so shocked and appalled. That irritates me, because those who voted for him, he's doing what he said he was going to do. Those who voted against him, he's doing what he said he was going to do.
Yep.
But what he's doing is reverberating around the world and having a negative economic impact on everyday people, business owners, and more. So based on that, the very real life, tangible effects he's having on people in a negative way, we're definitely going to see protests. And they have a right to protest. Before it was, morally, I disagree with him. Now, tangibly and practically, I disagree with him because he affects my life. But then at the same time, Keir Starmer is in a very difficult position because he's running a diplomatic minefield, because it is a strategic and very beneficial ally. That's quote-unquote special relationship. And he has to maintain it. But at the same time, like we're seeing with so many other issues that Britain is facing, he has to navigate the European relationship for Britain as well. It's something, whether it's the migration crisis or otherwise, it cannot be solved without collaboration across the EU. So how do you stay friends with one where you've exited from them previously, stay friends with another that you've criticised in the past? Keir Starmer's got to prove himself as a diplomat.
Well, I think he's trying to do that well, isn't he? I mean, after all, almost all the cabinet insulted Donald Trump in one way or another.
His own vice president did.
So he's come back and said, OK, I'm going to ignore that. He's actually turned around in the same way he did with J.D. Vance, say, yeah, he insulted me, so did you, Keir, but I'm getting on with the job. And you're right, in many places across Europe, they will start to see some impact economically on their nations, but in the United States, that will be short-term, particularly if you see interest rates rising. They're already making money on the trade issues that they've created. You're seeing the savings that they're making across governments by firing so many people. The border crisis is over. So people will see successes over there, and they will see some short-term pain, but they can offset that with lower interest rates and money coming into the government through lower taxation. Up to us, though, is whether we follow suit to try and take the benefits that we can derive from a potential free trade. And you're right, Emily. Will it be 3 weeks? Will it be 4 weeks?
We don't know. We don't know. Perhaps things will have moved on quite a bit come September. But, I mean, looking around, hearing at that press conference, talking about walking away from a Ukraine peace deal, if they don't make progress in the next couple of days, talking about all sorts, illegal migration, talking about trade, talking about everything. He's got a lot on his plate. It may be that our trade deal is sort of quite low down there in the pecking order of what are his priorities.
I mean, he's got a lot on his plate, but I think that's also part of the Trump technique, where so many things are happening at the same time. No one can really hold him over the fires to one singular thing.
Well, maybe.
It's kind of constant dancing plates. But at the same time, it's also a case of when it comes to this state visit, you shouldn't be rolling out the red carpet because you can't have your cake and eat it. If with one breath you're saying that exorbitant spending in frivolous ways is something that displeases the people that feel that we are getting poorer, you can't be rolling out money for something that is effectively pandering to a man's ego, because on a technicality, he's getting the visit. He doesn't actually need to have it. But one thing, remember when he presented...
But does that not ruin it, though? That takes the sheen off it, does it not?
Exactly.
If we just give him a grey carpet and he has a smaller feast,
right.
Keir Starmer is less glowing about
if you give him coffee in Starbucks with a couple of cakes, he's hardly wanting to try and give us a trade deal.
This is the Keir Starmer diplomacy technique that has to be applied, because it is not a secret that people know that, like every American leader, they are enamored with the royal family. It's something fascinating to them.
And so they should
It's a Trump card. It's a card he can play, because remember when he presented the letter at the visit at the White House?
Yes.
And it was a letter from King Charles. You know how to hit Donald Trump at the ego. That is something he's going to love. And he's being smart, because we need to talk about tariffs.
Yes, but you know what? Sir Keir Starmer will have his own ego, and Donald Trump will probably know how to massage that too.
Yeah, just bring him a few tools.
Keep him busy for a while. But he will, right?
Sorry.
They will both be able to try and manipulate one another in different directions.
The thing is that Keir Starmer does have an ego, but it's not one that's so palpable to us, is it? Because
different kind of ego,
perhaps. It is
a
different kind of ego. He looks very managerial. He looks like he could control the Office Series 6 really well without the jokes. But clearly he has obviously got enough support in terms of the backers to be able to keep him in power at the moment and got him there in the first place.
Well, there's Donald Trump at the last state visit in 2018. It was July, I believe. So there you go. I mean, it was a wonderful visit, of course, very much protested. But illegal migration, of course, Donald Trump talks about this a lot. There has been pretty effective changes,
it's
a lot of the rhetoric so far. I wonder if he could give Sir Keir Starmer some tips on that one, Stephen.
Well, it is. Well, if you look at Stephen Miller created the policies that Trump is enacting, and he took 5 years to really look at how we should deal with this. And how has Trump done it? He's not just gone through legislation with executive orders. He's managed to work it through the various Congress states. He's managed to dismantle various parts of the establishment that were preventing the kind of control of the migration border. He's helped out in terms of the military. He's changed the Department of Justice rules. All of them weren't just things that you thought up overnight. And the consequence of that is you had 200 to 350,000 crossing the southern border every month under Biden. 8,262 came across since Trump came in. Every one of them has been arrested and deported. The border crisis in the United States is over. Is it over in Europe? We've got 250,000 came all the migration routes into Europe.
I think that is brilliant marketing when it comes to repackaging the reality of what's going on in America, because the fact is he's effectively turned America into an oligarchy, and he's taken a sledgehammer to doing things the right way. They call it too much red tape, but those checks and balances exist within.
Yeah, but Judita, the numbers don't lie, and they've only gone one direction.
No,
they've gone down.
When they've deported people that they shouldn't have, what do they say? Administrative error.
I'm fascinated by you use the phrase oligarchy by wanting to get rid of organisations that were created by the state in the first place.
I use oligarchy because effectively you're having an entire nation made up of different socioeconomic strata governed by the very wealthy. When it comes to the knock-on effect of the tariffs, the rich will be okay. When it comes to the effect of migration, the rich will be okay, because at the same time, I haven't seen any European migrants being thrown out and sent to prisons. I haven't seen any, let's call it Anglo-Saxon looking of Anglo-Saxon.
So you think
origin.
It's a racist policy?
No, I see it's targeted at people you do not like.
Well, it's targeted at illegal immigrants. There probably aren't many European illegal immigrants.
There probably are, but I'm saying that there is
Mexicans and Cubans in that cabinet who are all supporting the idea of removing people from South America who came illicitly. So you can't turn around and say we're targeting for racist reasons. We're targeting.
I never said that.
No,
I never said that.
But you suggested that it was based on the colour of their skin or background.
The landing of my points is the whole mentality of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Because there's a particular demographic you find problematic, you've got a structure that targets them predominantly,
Judita,
so it's okay.
Let me just come in.
They were the majority of them coming over. It wasn't the majority. I mean, obviously, I could go into the numbers in greater detail. I mean, out of that 200 to 300,000, you were obviously getting Indians and Pakistanis who were coming across, and some from India. But the vast majority of those, about 89 to 91%, were South American. And so if you're targeting South Americans, it's because they were the ones who were coming over. If there was a whole load of South Africans currently escaping,
do you see what I'm saying?
They were the same.
You've now laid out the mathematics of why predominantly we are targeting South Americans.
Correct.
It's packaged as we are targeting an immigration crisis. No, just like Build the Wall, there is a demographic that North America finds problematic.
Judita, you really see it that way?
No, I see it
because
as...
it's actually just that they've arrived illegally.
No.
So you either have borders or you don't, and it just so happens that a lot of the people coming from the southern border are, of course, South American.
No, my issue
so it's not that
there is an immigration problem, yes. The way you go about it can be done in a humane way, where you're not ending up with situations where you're deporting people, where when you find out you shouldn't have, you just say it's an administrative error. These are human beings. Yes, they should not be there, but process them as human beings as opposed to cattle.
That people are being deported wrongly and then not allowed back in because of administrative errors?
One particular case that's been the cause célèbre of an MX-5 individual.
So it's one case?
It's one case so far, because at the moment he's in those where he's using the military rules to get rid of people.
There have been several cases. That's the most high profile.
That's the most high profile. We've had one student that came across from India. We've got another that's coming from China. But in reality, that's also a different level of the law that they're using. They're using visa regulations on that. And don't forget, unlike the United Kingdom and Europe, the US does have a rule on visas that if you've given any visa for work or student, it will be cancelled at any time for any particular reason. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a right to go to court about it.
Can I ask you something? For the kind of praise you've levelled at the approach Trump has had.
Yes. Take
the exact same template and apply it to a leader. Let's say Keir Starmer did exactly what he did, where you throw out the rule book, because let's face it, he has Congress, he has the Senate, and he's loaded the Supreme Court, even though now they're the only reason standing between him and going fully gay abandon with his decisions. But if you had a leader like Keir Starmer who decided, I don't care about the laws, parliament, anyone else, any councils, I am just going to make decisions and everyone fall in line or else. That is why we've seen, like even looking at the bank of the titans of tech at his inauguration, we have seen from Bezos not endorsing Kamala Harris in the Washington Post to everyone else, kiss the ring or you're going to have problems during the administration, and they understand that because at the end of the day, they're businessmen. Would you have Keir Starmer operate like Donald Trump in the UK?
Well, I prefaced right at the beginning that Donald Trump had Stephen Miller create the legislative process and the capability to change procedures and rules. If you were able to do that, which would in this country would be remove ourselves from the European Court of Human Rights, rights, the abolishment of the Human Rights Act, changed the immigration rules and regulations, ensured that the common law wiped out all the cases that related to ECHR within it, and then you changed certain parts of our, not constitution, but other parts of our laws, like the Supreme Court, then you could do that. But why are you doing that? You're doing that through the law. Because Parliament has changed all of those. So if that's what the people voted for, that's what was enacted by government, and that was then able to exclude those people who should be removed instead of saying, I don't like the idea that my son could have meatballs or burgers or whatever in Albania that's different here, chicken McNuggets, I think it was. Those people can go.
But it was done under the framework of the law. Most people listening will think that playing by the rules as it stands when it comes to our immigration policy hasn't really been working when it comes to illegal migration.
But I am advocating the law is changed.
Yes, so the law would have to change. We're going to have to leave it for just now. Lots of you have been getting in touch, but there was a very interesting discussion and we will return to it. But